Yes. So we had said that the author talks about six-fold samadhi. It is six ways of approaching the topic of nididhyasanam. And I had given the 6 names. So we'll do a more systematic classification today. This samadhi can be analyzed first under 2 heads. That is antara samadhi and bahya samadhi. So antara means internal and bahya external. So any samadhi when we are talking about over here, please remember we are talking about nididhyasana meditation. So we are saying this samadhi can be classified into antara and bahya, internal and external. And if you look at the small little image which was provided earlier, and I think which Mahalakshmi again put today. So under antara samadhi, under internal samadhi, there are 2 classes: savikalpaha, nirvikalpaha. Under each of these, there are 2 more. So under savikalpaha, there is drishya anuvidhi samadhi and shabda anuvidhi samadhi. So if you look at the whole, all the classifications of this becomes drishya anuvidha savikalpaha antara samadhi. That is the first one. The second one becomes shabda anuvidha savikalpa antara samadhi. Similarly, under nirvikalpa samadhi also we have drishya anuvidha and shabda anuvidha. And so under antara we have savikalpa, nirvikalpa. Under each of these we've got 2 more. So ultimately under antara there are 4 types of samadhis: drishya and shabda relating to savikalpaha, and drishya and shabda relating to nirvikalpaha. Similarly, under bahya samadhi, the external samadhi also, we have savikalpaha and nirvikalpaha. Under savikalpaha, we have drishya and shabda anuvidhi. Under nirvikalpaha also we have drishya and shabda anuvidhi. So totally there are 8 different types of samadhis mentioned. 4 of them fall under antara, other 4 fall under bahya. Internally also, antara is divided into savikalpaha, nirvikalpaha, and bahya also is divided in the same thing. So now look at the words. He says, Satchid Anandam Tatparaha Bhavet. Tatparaha is the focus. And what is Tatpara? Tatpara Bhavet. May you be Tatparaha. May you be focused. On what? Satchid Anandam. The focus of the object of the focus rather, is Satchita Ananda. What is Satchita Ananda? The limitless Brahman. And what is this limitless Brahman? Who is this limitless Brahman? That is myself. So his first line says, please come to meditation on yourself. Meditation on Satchitananda, which is yourself. And that is why it is Nididhyasanam. And then, how should I focus on this Satchitananda? That is the question being asked. So look at the words again. If you look at the first line of this 22nd verse, it is Satchidananda Tatparaha. So that we have taken first. Focus your mind on Satchidananda Brahman. And Upeksya Nama Rupe. You have to give up the form. Upeksya Nama Rupe. Renouncing Nama Rupa. Why? Because why is he talking about Nama Rupa? Remember that whatever you focus on consists of 5 aspects. And what are those 5 aspects? We discussed earlier. Whatever you can focus on consists of 5 aspects. And what are they?
Satchit Ananda, the 3, and and name and form, 4 and 5.
Right. So Satchidanandam and 4 and 5 is name and form. And therefore, what is he saying here? Nama Rupe Upeksha. You renounce the Nama Rupa. Because any object of focus is always mixed with Nama Rupa, and therefore you are Sat Chit Ananda Nama Rupa. If you remove the Nama Rupa, if you renounce the Nama Rupa, then you are focusing on what? Satchit Ananda. A pure Satchit Ananda is never available for our focus. It is always mixed with Nama Rupa. And therefore the separation is not physical. You cannot physically remove the Nama Rupa. You have to intellectually segregate Nama Rupa from the mixture. Right? And remember that when the Nama Rupa is removed, the Satchitananda is avyaktam. It is not available for you to, for your sense organs to see. And therefore it is intellectual. And that's why he says, Nama Rupe Dve. Two are to be removed. Which are these two? Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa Dve means these two, which is Nama Rupa, have to be renounced, have to be removed. And the other three is Asti, Bhati, Priyam, or Satchitananda, which you said, that is left. And on these other three which are left, which is Satchitananda, which is Brahman, what should you do? Samadhim Sarvada Kuryat. Samadhi here is focus. You should focus, you should meditate upon Samadhim Kuryat. Meditate upon the Satchitananda with as much focus as possible. And when should you do this? Should I do it in the morning or in the afternoon or the evening? Sarvada Kuryat. All the time. Because this is not a part-time activity. Nididhyasanam is a 24/7/365 activity, and therefore Sarvada Kuryat, all the time I should focus on this. On what? On Brahman, on Satchitananda, on Asti Bhati Priyam. And every time I want to focus, I should mentally remove the Nama Rupa. Why is he saying it with so much of, emphasis? Because during your daily transaction in this world, during your worldly transactions, you are focusing only on Nama Rupa and you ignore Satchitananda because Satchitananda is not available for perception. And therefore, we focus on only those things which are available for perception through my sense organs, which is Nama Rupa only. Okay, how should I do this? He says. Okay, next question is what? He has told you Samadhim Kuryat. Samadhim Kuryat on what? On Satchitananda. And Sarvada Kuryat. We should do it all the time. And therefore, how should I do it is the question. So for that, you look at the second line and the third word. Samadhim, fourth word, sorry. So I have to point out to you that in the text which I sent you, in the Devanagari, it says Samadhim Sarvada Hridaye. If you look at the transliteration, there is one missing over there. So, Samadhim Sarvada Kuryat Hridaye. That Kuryat has to be brought in there. And that is why in my explanation, I say Samadhim Sarvada Kuryat. Then Hridaye. Hridaye means in the heart. Okay, so he says, you focus in the heart. By how do I focus in the heart? By taking any thought in the mind. Because internally, in my mind, when I focus, what can I focus on? Only on thoughts. External world has got objects, but the internal world has only thoughts as objects. And therefore, when I do Hridaya Eva, in my thought, in my mind only, Hridayam means the heart. But here, you have to focus in the mind. Hridayam means mind over here. Why? Because, can anybody tell me why Hridayam is equated with the mind?
Is it because of emotions that associated with heart?
Technical explanation. What is technical explanation?
Raviji, is it
Anji.
because if you take Hridayam to literally mean heart, it is a Namarupa, which you told to ignore in the previous.
I'll give you a clue. Go back to Tattva Bodha. And a little bit of Bhagavad Gita here and there.
Because the mind is combination of emotions, emotional.
You know,
Is it something to do with the kosha?
no. It is to do with Tattva Bodha definitions of sense organs. Okay, what is the connection between Chakshu Indriya and the physical eye?
Is the power behind the
That is, physical eye is Golak.
Physical eye is Golakam.
Gola.
huh,
Right.
and
Now you tell me what is the connection.
Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira difference.
No, the heart is taken as the Golakam.
Golakam, exactly. It's a manifestation of the mind. Or,
No, Golakam for the mind.
huh.
So when you are in meditation, it is said that the mind withdraws where? Into its residence, the Golakam. So the heart is taken as the Golakam for the mind. And this we'll see further, I think, in one of our Upanishad classes probably will come across, or maybe in Atma Bodha. So Hridayam, here it is because heart is the Golakam for the mind. And therefore he says Hridayam eva. What he means is mind, Manaha. And what is there in the Manaha? In the Manaha, we have only thoughts. And therefore, Hridayam eva means Manaha eva. Manaha eva means on vritti eva, on thoughts only you have to focus. And each thought consists of what? A thought is an object. So it consists of the same 5 components. Asti, Bhati, Priyam, Nama, Rupam. And therefore, this is a particular type of meditation, which we just talked about. What is this meditation now? It is Antara meditation. It is internal meditation. Why? Because the object is looked for inside. Okay. And then he says, if you look at the verse, Athava. First he says Athava, and there's a Va also. Hridaya, Va. You drop that joiner and you get Va, Athava, Bahihi. Or also Athava, Bahihi is outside. So either you take a thought in the mind, which is Antara Samadhihi, or you take any outside object. Now, again, you have to go back to the definition. Any object, whether it be internal or whether it be external, it will have the same 5 components. And what is the great advantage here? You can meditate on anything. Internally, you can meditate on any thought. Externally, you can meditate on anything. You can meditate on your house, you can meditate on your car, you can meditate on your favorite seat, you can meditate on your partner if you want to, you can also meditate on your mother-in-law. Okay. But there is a rider. What is a rider? Supposing you're meditating on the mother-in-law, let's say, for example. What is the rider over here? What is the condition for this meditation?
That you don't see a Nam Rupa.
That you don't see the Nama Rupa. Therefore, what are you seeing? You are seeing the isness only. You are seeing the existence only, existence principle only. And therefore, you focus on the existence part and not on the isness part. When you focus on your thought in your mind also, you are focusing on the this is part. not on the vritti part of the thought, or on the Vishaya part of the thought. This is what? This is something. That something you are not focusing on, because the something is Nama Rupa. You are focusing on this is. Similarly, outside also when you focus, you are focusing on this is. Therefore, this second portion is Bahya Samadhi Abhyasa. So if you look at the verse, Samadhim Sarvada Kuryat, up to there it is the advice. And Hridaye Va Athava Bahihi, that means you can take either an internal object or you can take an external object. And therefore this verse talks about the first line of that image of the chart. First line is what? Bahya Samadhi and Antara Samadhi. So this line talks about that only. Okay. Any question? It's a bit, technical. But by now you guys are all used to technical stuff, right? Okay. If there are no questions, then we can go to the verse number 23. So we'll chant. Savikalpo nirvikalpaha. Samadhir-dvidho hridihi.
Samadhir-vidhidho hridi.
Dṛśya-Shabdhanuvedhena.
Dṛśya-Shabdhanuvedhena.
Savikalpah punardvida.
Savikalpa punardvidha.
So now we look at those words. In this verse, therefore, or the first line of this verse, last verse, he talked about the first level of the chart, Antara and Bahya. In this first line of this sloka, of the 23rd sloka, he comes to the next level of the chart, which is what? Savikalpa and Nirvikalpaha, under each head of Antara and Bahya. So the first line divides into 2, then the second line becomes 4. And therefore, now he's talking about Savikalpa and Nirvikalpaha for each of Antara and of Bahya. So he says, Savikalpaha Nirvikalpaha iti Samadhi Vidaha. There are 2 types. Vidaha. 2 types there are of the Samadhi, which is what? Savikalpaha and Nirvikalpaha. Okay. Now, he is talking about what? Because of the Hridi part of it, he is talking about the internal Samadhi only. Right? Savikalpaha, Nirvikalpaha, Samadhi, Vida, Hridi. Hridi here means the heart, which means the Manaha. Therefore, the first line means that this Antara Samadhi can be divided further into Savikalpaha and Nirvikalpaha. Now, here is the beauty of the thing. You have to supply here. The verse doesn't say, but since the earlier verse talked about Antara and Bahya, you cannot just ignore, and therefore the same division has to be applied to Bahya also. So you have to repeat the whole thing and then say Bahya at the end. So the Savikalpaha Nirvikalpa iti Samadhi Bahya. This is also there. It's a line to be supplied mentally. Now, what does Savikalpa Samadhi mean? A lot of you guys have done Yoga Sutras. What does Savikalpaha Samadhi mean? Come. Nobody?
Raviji,
Anji?
Savikalpa is with Vikalpa. Vikalpa
Yes.
is the distinction between the observer and the observed.
Yes. So you can say that there are differences, there are distinctions. Okay. There is savikalpa, which means there is a distinction, and there is a distinction between two things. What are they? Dṛg and Dṛśya. Why are you coming to that conclusion? Because why are we saying that vikalpa is equal to Dṛg and Dṛśya? What is the context from which you are
Does that mean a seeker and a subject?
No, I'm just what Arvind said was the right answer. That vikalpa here, savikalpa means sa plus vikalpa, saha. Vikalpa saha with vikalpa. Vikalpa means differences. Differences, he said, was between the seer and the seen. Why are you arriving at the interpretation that vikalpa is the difference between seer and seen?
Raviji, out of the 5 parts, the first 3 are Brahman.
Yes.
So that is the seer.
Yes.
And the other 2, name and form, are the observed.
Yes, very good. So that's one answer. The other answer is contextual because the text is called Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka. Okay, so both answers are correct. Natarajan's is the more correct answer because you are doing the first 3 and the second 2. Okay. Now, then he says, Savikalpaha Punardvidha. What does dvidha mean? Tattvabodha. Again, all these words are present there.
By 2.
Dvidha means what? Whoever said that, can you repeat?
I think dvidha vibhajya, I mean divide by 2.
Divided by 2, no? Divided into 2. Okay, so punardvidha. Savikalpaha punardvidha means savikalpa samadhi punar again. Dvidha can be divided into 2. Okay. So here also it is applied. Nirvikalpa also can be divided. So now savikalpa samadhi punardvidha can be divided into 2, which is what? Dṛśya shabda anuvedanam. So if you look at the line, that is the second line. First it says savikalpa punardvidha. This savikalpa samadhi which we are talking about can be divided, punar again can be divided into 2, dvidaha. And again, as I said, we have to supply here nirvikalpaha punardvidha. Can also be divided into 2, that you have to supply. It's not there in the verse. And what are these two? Dṛśya shabda anuvedena. Dṛśya shabda anuvedena. Anuvedanam is a connection, a sambandha. And therefore it can be divided into 2. Dṛśya anuvedena, shabda anuvedena. So we have savikalpa dṛśya anuvedena, savikalpa shabda anuvedena. Then you have to supply there nirvikalpa dṛśya anuvedena, nirvikalpa shabda anuvedena. So 8 types of samadhis are being discussed and have been discussed. So vedanam is basically the touching or the contacting. Anuvedanam is the sambandha, association. And therefore you have dṛśya shabda savikalpa samadhi, shabda sambandhana savikalpa samadhi. So shabda here means what? This shabda is the shastric shabda. Okay. So first let's look at the first one. Dṛśya savikalpa samadhi. What is dṛśya? It is an object, external object. And therefore, dṛśya savikalpa samadhi means samadhi on the external object with the awareness that I am the person who is meditating and this is the object of the meditation. And therefore, dṛśya savikalpa samadhi. That's the first one. The next one is shabda savikalpa samadhi. So remember here we are saying anuvedena. Anuvedena means sambandha. So really you have to say, you have to fully expand that. You have to say dṛśya anuveda savikalpa samadhi. That samadhi associated with an object where you are the meditator and you are aware that this is the object of the meditation. Similarly, Shabda Sambandha or Shabda Anuveda Savikalpa Samadhi. Shabda here means Vedantic words, words from the scriptures. And what are the words in the scriptures you would choose? All those descriptors of Brahman. So Nitya, Shuddha, Sakshi, Asangaha, Akhandam, Nirvikaraha. All those things you can choose. Any one of them. And which one should I choose? I should choose something which appeals to me. Any of these words which appeals to me, which I am particularly, impacted by, any of those words I can choose. And then Savikalpa means I am using the support of some aid, the object. Nirvikalpa means I have removed the object and now I am focusing only on the Brahman aspect of it, not on the Namarupa. So here Savikalpa means you are focusing on Namarupa. Nirvikalpa means you are focusing on Satchit Ananda. Okay, so with this we'll stop today. Any questions we can take. Remember, it's a high technical discussion, but it gets a bit interesting later as it discusses how to actually practice these samadhis.
So when you say words of the scripture, Vedantic words, so you mean to say they're synonymous to the word Brahman?
No.
All that are there?
There are so many words in for example, so far you have only the Gita, right? Gita has so many words. Like, for example, you say chapter 2 from verse number 11 to 25. You have a lot of descriptive words. They are Shabdaha defining Brahman. So those you can use. Aham Nitya, Aham Shuddha, Aham Sakshi, Aham Asangaha, all those things.
Also Mahavakyas?
Mahavakya also you can choose, yes. Any words appearing in the scripture is Shabda.
And considered external objects of
Sorry, come again.
samadhi. They're considered samadhi on external objects.
You can do externally also. That is what I'm saying. External is an object outside you, a form. Or you can do internally. You can do either your thoughts or on the words. Thought is an object. The word for you is something other than an object, because though it can be classified as object, because appearing in the scriptures, it's directly representative of Brahman. And therefore, the focus should be on that as myself. So the object part of it disappears, because Aham Brahmasmi, there is no object. There is only subject, because the object is also subject.
So when you say to focus on myself, again, not to focus on my being, my Namarupa.
Namarupa is excluded straight away. When you say myself, if you are thinking about body-mind complex, then you are in Bahya Samadhi.
But this is a very, very high level of samadhi. Very, very high level.
This is, a text which is done much later in the day, but we started it anyway. So I'm sure you'll struggle with it, but that's why we do it once in a week, and we usually do only maybe 1.5 verses. The rest of the week you should spend on assimilating those verses. If you come to one Friday after another Friday without having gone through, it is not going to help. Okay, thank you so much. Let us finish off here. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.